Hello and welcome back to another episode of Word Wednesday. I'm your host, Paige Goodger, and as always, we have Bix Weir. How's it going, Bix?
It's great. I have my new background here,
I
and
love your Silver Knights.
they're ready. I mean, there's so many fights in the exchanges, and I'm excited about the topic because it's very timely for what's going on in the silver market.
Yes, I can't wait to talk about the silver market and let's get right into it. So, today we will be talking about ICE, the Intercontinental Exchange, which is an American company that owns and operates financial and commodity marketplaces and exchanges. A commodities exchange is a legal entity that determines and enforces rules and procedures for trading, standardized commodity contracts, and related investment products, usually dealing in futures and options. If you would like some more info on futures and options, be sure to watch our Other Word Wednesday on the COMEX. So, ICE was originally founded in May 2000 in Atlanta, Georgia by Jeffrey C. Spraker, a power plant developer who wanted to create a more transparent and efficient platform for over the counter energy commodity trading. When it was founded, the company's primary focus was on energy products, specifically crude oil and refined oil, natural gas power, and emissions. It was said that with manual trading, the new platform provided greater price transparency, efficiency, liquidity, and had lower costs. Spraker received backing from Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, BP, Total, Shell, Deutsche Bank, and Societe Generale. ICE became a publicly traded company in 2005. Today, ICE is a network of exchanges and clearinghouses for financial and commodity markets, owning and operating 23 exchanges and marketplaces. ICE also owns and operates 5 central clearinghouses. Clearinghouses act as a guarantee and make sure nothing goes wrong when a deal is made between a buyer and a seller. If the seller does not deliver the shares they have promised on a stock, the clearinghouse delivers them. If a buyer does not have the cash on hand, the clearinghouse will deliver that cash. So they are able to do this by stepping in between the buyer and seller and taking control of the contract. So before we get into ICE, Bix, what is your opinion on clearinghouses in general?
Well, clearinghouses are fine. It's the exchanges. Well, the clearinghouses basically is the backup if the exchanges let one of their criminals get out of hand. So
Mhm.
it's the whole thing is so fraudulent, and the amount and what ICE has done is changed regular markets where buyers and sellers get together to trade a commodity or a stock or a bond, and they change it into a derivative contract where all your trading is thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of times what the underlying asset is, back and forth to each other to set the price somewhere. That's how the price of oil can be set at negative $40, is because of ICE allows and facilitates stuff like that. And the clearinghouse part of ICE is, if one of their criminals gets out of hand, the other criminals will cover for them and they'll deal with them in their own way, which is probably cement shoes at the bottom of the Potomac. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not a fan of ICE or any of the companies they own, like the COMEX or the NYMEX.
Yeah, so ICE is the third largest exchange group in the world behind Hong Kong Exchanges and Clearing Limited and the CME Group Incorporated, which owns the Chicago Board of Trade and the New York Mercantile Exchange. In 2019, the company experienced $354 billion in new market capitalizations across its exchange listings. So, Vix, what do you look at on the road to Rudo when it comes to ICE? Is there fraud and manipulation happening here? What are the shadowed parts that are hidden from the public? And why are they the bad guys?
Well, it all started with the oil contracts that were being traded in the 80s, and it turned into ICE. And then oil has been the de facto ruler of the financial world since we went on a petrodollar. The
Mhm.
petrodollar was created in 1971 by Greenspan and others, and it was a fraud. It was a way to make the rest of the world buy gas in US dollars only, which created artificial demand for the US dollar. And then they figured out they don't even need that artificial demand anymore because they have derivatives that they can use in place of oil. And in
Mm.
place of the US dollar, there's derivatives on the US dollar. So everything has been derivatized and it's all traded at high frequency with high frequency trading models, massive quantities just to control the price up, down, or sideways. They can control anything, and it's leaked into every market. A big part of ICE now is the Bitcoin backed project, which backed is basically a Bitcoin ETF type of thing that ICE controls. And obviously, they did it to control the price, just like they control the price of silver and oil and any other commodity and any other stock bond. ICE is the big gorilla in the room, although Shanghai is probably going to catch up as China takes more dominance. But ICE is just, it's so criminal. It reeks criminality, and they all belong in jail. They don't belong running in an exchange.
Absolutely. So, how does ICE and the corruption in ICE, how does that relate to the Road to Ruta theory that you discuss on the Road to Ruta?
Well, sure. The road to root theory is that there are certain people in the government, behind the scenes, mainly at the Federal Reserve, controlling the markets with computers and derivatives. That's done directly through ICE and the companies ICE owns, with a long laundry list of exchanges and stock markets, and you name it, ICE pretty much has bought it up. And that's the way they do it. That's the way that Federal Reserve controls the US dollar and the US Treasury. They all do it through the Exchange Stabilization Fund, which runs computer programs to rig the markets. If a market is getting too low, they'll buy tons and tons of futures contracts. If it's getting too high, they'll sell tons and tons of futures contracts. They don't have the actual commodity or the stock that they're dealing with. They're just buying and selling the futures and options, and they can do that to infinity. So there is no more free markets. There hasn't been, and ICE is the facilitator of that.
Yeah, they're the owners, they're the riggers, and they're the manipulators of every single commodity market.
And the amazing thing, all that, yes, but the main thing is they are a self-regulating entity. An SRE means they're their own regulator too. It's insane what is going on here.
So, if you could wave a magic wand, would you completely abolish ICE and just get rid of these regulators and have freely traded markets and let everyone decide what markets that they could be a part of?
It won't take a magic wand, but my answer is yes. I would remove derivatives from the equation. There's no need for derivatives. I understand why they were invented, but they have become so big, they have taken over all markets. So there's no need for derivatives. There's no need for regulators in any market. If an exchange is acting criminally, people will move away from that market. It is self-regulating in that if it's a criminal operation, you're going to walk away from it. But with a regulator, you have this false sense of a free market, and it's not happening. So yes, I would wave my wand, but I don't think the wand's going to have to be waved. I think they're going to implode because they're so out of control in the amount of derivatives that are being bought and sold every day.
Yeah. They're kind of like their own parole officer. It's like, well, we're just going to watch ourselves. And of course, we're going to do all the right things and be on the up and up.
It's insane, and it goes on and continues, and still to this day, like the COMEX is a self-regulating entity, and then they have the CFTC there just so that there's a little government involvement, but all they do is run cover for the riggers on the COMEX. And then you have the Federal Reserve who looks over the banks, and they obviously don't do anything to stop the banks from all this rigging. So it's like, why do we pay any regulators? Why do we pay any taxes for these people to do nothing in their jobs?
Yeah, because they are they're funded by taxpayers. And so our money is going to protect criminal organizations that are using the entire system for only their benefit. And we never see any of that money. Like the commodity markets clearly aren't fairly regulated. Nothing's fairly traded. So they're not even doing their job and they're getting paid for it.
But they would say, you are benefiting because you still have a 401k and you still have a stock market that functions in the current system. And to a degree, that is correct. If there
Mhm.
were no market rigging, all the markets would implode because all the prices are misaligned with fair market value right now.
Mhm.
So that's their argument. And but what they do is because they're trying to take care of everybody else, they get to lie, cheat, and steal and make money for themselves and then walk away if they make any losses. So it is, yeah, criminal corrupt system.
With the virtue signal of, but it's for your 401k and your retirement. Yeah, that's absolutely ridiculous. So, speaking of financial crisis, in response to the 2007-2008 financial crisis, Sprecher formed ICE Clear Credit, which would serve as a clearinghouse for credit default swaps. ICE Clear Credit also served as the US Federal Reserve's over-the-counter derivatives clearinghouse, which they said was providing crucial risk management services for the market. ICE was the first to offer clearing services in the OTC energy and credit derivatives market. By 2010, ICE had cleared more than 10 trillion in credit default swaps through its subsidiary ICE Clear Credit. So Bix, what is your take on ICE clearing more than $10 trillion in credit default swaps? And what does that actually mean?
That's what happened in 2008. All the bankers were off sides. They screwed up. Whoa, we need someone to clear these transactions. Everybody was off sides. ICE comes in and says, "Oh, we'll be the arbitrator between everybody. All the criminals can come to us." And the if you look at the credit default swap market, it is pretty much shrank compared to
Mhm.
what it was in 2008. They just got out and they increased their other derivatives by hundreds of times what they were back then. The derivative market is alive and well and hell of a lot worse off than it was in 2008. But the credit default swaps have ICE behind it. So credit default swaps got out of hand. They reined in the criminals and in the credit default swap market, but everywhere else the criminals are running rampant. So there is going to be another financial collapse.
Mhm.
And ICE will say, okay, we'll be in charge of this. We'll be in charge of that. They are the criminals. We cannot put these people in charge of anything. They need to be taken out to the woodshed and whipped.
So, if they are still in charge of this and there is an impending financial crash, do you think that ICE is going to somehow swoop in and act like they're doing something for the good of the people? Or do you think that because of the financial collapse and that there are other markets like cryptocurrencies and holding your own precious metals, do you think that ICE will crumble? Like can they crumble if we do have another financial collapse?
Well, being the clearinghouse for $2 quadrillion worth of derivatives, yes, they can crumble pretty badly. And it could be anything. It could be what's going on with the debt markets right now. It could be what's going on with silver. ICE is the clearinghouse, meaning it's a group of banksters who say, oh, someone's in trouble over there. We'll bail them out so we don't expose ourselves.
Mhm.
So, yes, absolutely. They will go bye bye when the derivative bubble pops, and they will be absolutely the focal point. Everybody was saying, hey, you were supposed to be the clearinghouse for $2 quadrillion worth of derivatives and you screwed up. What
Mhm.
is your excuse? And why is everybody sitting now with nothing in their 401k and their virtue signaling got virtually exploded?
So that's a good one. So, how does ice relate to silver? And if ice were to go under, what does that mean for silver? And if ice stays, if they maintain their power, what does that mean for the price of silver, the price of cryptos, the price of all of these commodities that they do set the price for?
Well, ICE is knee deep in silver derivatives. They have a derivative trading platform. They're on the board of the new LBMA silver price fix, used to be called the price fix.
Mhm.
Now it's called, I don't even know, it's benchmark pricing. Same deal. They rig and benchmark the price of silver. They are knee deep with the COMEX. They all share inventories. They share everything. It's all one big con. They all work together, the LBMA, ICE, and the CME group. It's all a con. And they're all working together, even with Jeffrey Christian of CPM Group. They're all working together to rig the price of silver to keep you, the average investor, away from realizing what that investment should have become. we need fair market value in silver. That's it. And if we can't get it, we're going to take all the silver out of all the warehouses and take it away from ICE and take it away from the comics and the banksters and all those criminals. Now is the time. Grab your silver now.
Yes. So would you say that that is the number one way that we will take down ICE and all of these criminal exchanges is buying up all this silver, storing it in our own vaults and holding it for ourselves and not allowing these criminal people to regulate and virtually steal from the people who are paying them to exist?
It is one of the ways. It's probably the strongest way. Ultimately, from the road to rooted data that I've analyzed, yes, that's how the bankers die, is through the moonshot of silver, and they lose control of the silver market. Everybody screams, "What the hell? How can silver go from $25 to $250 to $2,500 in a blink of an eye? What's going on?" We heard about silver manipulation, and now all these big banks are the ones who are going bankrupt because they were short silver. What the hell's going on? And that's when the cat's out of the bag, and the regulators have to admit that they have no mandate to fix the silver market. They have a mandate to preserve the criminal price rigging. That's their only mandate.
Yeah. So buy up your silver, go down to your local silver store, call Andy Sheckman, go get your silver. Let's take down ICE. Let's take down these criminal banksters, the regulators, the riggers, the manipulators, and so we can get back to free markets. And
when you said Andy Sheckman, send him an email, andy@milesfranklin.com, because that's the best way. If you don't have a local dealer, go to the Andy and say, "Andy, what do you have in inventory? I'm looking to get physical silver in my hand as fast as possible." I think it's down at $26. Obviously, the premiums are way off the charts. I don't know anybody who's selling silver for under $30 right now. Almost any form of silver. I heard $10 or $10 to $15 premiums on gold eagle or silver eagles.
wow.
It's crazy. It's crazy out there. That's almost double.
Yeah. And if you want to get a special silver coin, a Rotaruta silver coin, be sure to go to rotaruta.com and sign up for a membership. It's a 1-year membership. It's less than $1 a day, and you get a shiny, beautiful Rotaruta silver coin. So make sure you go do that. And Bix, are there any final words that you have about ICE or the Intercontinental Exchange?
I would like to say one thing about ICE. They have their clause. The CEO of ICE, the guy, what's his name, Sprecher.
Yes.
His wife is actually Kelly Loeffler, who ran for a congressional seat in Georgia, was actually appointed to it. And then when one of the congressmen got caught being a pedophile and had to leave, so she went in for his spot, and then they rigged it out of her. I don't know how deep the tentacles go, but I believe it is in Congress, it is in the exchanges, it is in the banking system, it's in the Fed. The tentacles of manipulation are everywhere. So just be careful out there. Get your assets in your own possession, especially silver, especially your cryptos, and then just be safe. Now's the time to do that.
Yes, absolutely. Go get that silver. Well, thank you so much to everyone for joining us for another Word Wednesday. We will see you soon with another interesting word, and take care until then.